Hey, what's up, y'all? Michael here, ChiCityYaker. Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and thank you for watching. Now, let's talk about today's video because there's quite a few things in it that I want to share with you that are very important information-wise. First thing I want to get out the way, though, is I made a oopsie. I forgot to turn on the power to my wireless mics to record audio directly into my camera, which is why I'm doing the voiceover now. So my apologies. I'll make sure I do better next time out. But let's talk about where we're at. We're in the Chain of Lakes, northern Illinois, big waterway system. The idea for me and Buba was to track down the walleye springtime. Temps were in the mid 50s in the mid lake or main lake areas. And we started off trolling, went into throwing jig and minnows, went into throwing some plastics in some key areas. And even for the boaters around me that I talked to, it was a very slow walleye bite. I only saw one boat catch a walleye while we were out doing that. And so we went through the high winds. As you can see here, it was very windy. Winds were sustaining in the mid-teens, gusting into the 20s. So it made for a very gnarly ride around the main lake. As you can see here, white caps all over the place. It's kind of like a big giant soup bowl. So we decided to pivot and hit some channels to go track down some of the springtime crappie. And finally, we make it into one of the channels here. And even though we were in these smaller, channel areas, the wind was still strong enough to blow you around and keep you off of, positions that you wanted to maintain to, properly fish. And so as we get back into this area, it's crappie, it's springtime. And I think the temperature in the back channel was a few degrees warmer than the main lake, maybe close to like 57, 58 at this time of the day. And so we get to fishing. It didn't take long to start catching a couple of fish here and there. And in the open water, I was catching some smaller ones. And so I was like, okay, this is not what I'm looking for. I know there's bigger crappie around here. Now it's just a matter of dialing it in. And so Bubba is throwing some plastics to try and see if these fish were aggressive and willing to chase the plastic. I had the minnow bucket and minnows, so I said, hey, this is a no fail when you have minnows and throw them on a slip bobber. So eventually we took our time, and what I came to find out was that these fish were staging and were pre-spawn. They're getting ready to spawn. Temperatures are almost where you need to be. At one point in the day, in the afternoon, the temps in the little channel got up into 60, 61 degrees. So they're getting ready. And I definitely pulled some thick fish, including a couple females that I wish I kind of paid more attention to and would have thrown those back. So yeah, if you do catch them now, just be mindful that they are, getting ready to spawn. And, sometimes it's good to let go of the females and just take care of the males, or wait until after they're spawning so that, they can replenish and we have more for years to come. Took some time to figure out, where they were and what they wanted. And essentially, these fish were tight to cover, specifically wooden docks that shot out far enough into the channel that were some of the longer docks, which meant they extended into deeper water. And by deeper water, we're talking about 4 or 5 feet, right? In this channel was deep. And so the docks that actually stretched out into that depth of water, the furthest, piling on the dock and the wooden dock is where they were sitting on. And I mean, they were tight to it. And casting was very, very key in catching these fish. If you put your bobber minnow even more than a foot away from the piling, they weren't touching it. You had to really pitch it damn near onto the wooden piling or between the two pilings, and you would get bit almost instantly. Running the hook through the mouth or hooking the minnow through the kind of like the backside of his tail, both worked. And I felt like when I hooked the minnow through the mouth is when I would get better hookups. I lost a couple when they would hit. When I would rig the minnow the other way, I would set the hook and they would be off. So I imagine they might have put the front of the minnow in their mouth and the hook was still dangling out when I set the hook. It pulled it off. So yeah, so if you're going to hook them up, I would probably suggest hooking them through the lips for better hookups. And let me go ahead and share with you how I set up my slip bobber, because it's a little different than what I see most people doing these days, right? So what I do is I'll take the bobber stop, a bead, and the bobber, and I'll run it through my main line, which is braid, and then I'll tie on a barrel swivel to one end. And then I'll take a 12 to no more than 15-inch leader fluorocarbon 6-pound test line, and I'll tie that to the other side of the barrel swivel and put a simple hook on the other end. And that's how I run my slip bobbers. And the reason I do that is because I like the fact of being able to adjust the depth of my slip bobber as deep as I want it, and having it connected to the main line. If I ever hook up into something, or I, let's say, snag into something, I can just break that little leader line. I got the rest of my rig ready to go. Just quickly tie on another piece of leader, hook, and I can get back into fishing. And another reason why I set up my bobber stop like this is that the line underneath the barrel swivel, that minnow free swims, right? So that 12 to 15 inches of leader line, that minnow has all of that line to freely move around. I really believe it makes the minnow more natural in the water. It has more room to kind of swim around. Since I don't have any split shots on the line on the leader, it free swims, and everything, all the weight, all the split shots are above the barrel swivel. And I just really believe I have more success running this setup of a bobber stop than I have with the other version of it, which is the more traditional way of doing it. So it's really effective. Try it out. If you don't understand how I'm describing it, let me know. I'll be happy to put a picture up, maybe on my Facebook or even here on the YouTube channel. Either way, let me know. All right. Now let's go ahead and transition into an important learning lesson here. And I want to thank Buba for allowing me to share this because, honestly, I understand it's an embarrassing situation, but as he's leaning over, he pushes down on the gunnel. Now, there's also a lot of wind coming in at the same time. And I think that combination of all of those things led to him tipping over as he went to go cast his line out at the dock. Now, as you can see here, Buba does a phenomenal job of recovering. That initial shock when you fall into the water, because it happened to me on Lake Michigan, can really throw you off. So Buba manages to climb up onto his capsized kayak, and as I'm talking him through, telling him to relax, take your breath, all right. I tell him go ahead and grab the other side of his kayak. He has to flip it back over because you don't want to leave your kayak capsized for too long, because any kayak will take on water. So as you see here, he's going to work on re-entry again. Balance is really, really key, and you see how he did that with all his gear on. Readjust himself. Of course, I'm there to help if he needed it, but he had it under control, and he makes a full recovery back into the kayak. Now, if you're not practicing this, you absolutely should. If you are out in the water when it's colder, make sure you have a buddy out there, because if he weren't able to do this himself, I would have had to have, pulled off and helped him recover. And that's why you should always go out with a buddy. Lesson learned, man. Hopefully you guys take note, practice this. And again, thank you to Buba for allowing me to share this with you guys, because this is an important learning lesson that all of us need to be reminded of. It happens. It can happen on big water when it's choppy and windy, as well as it can happen when you're simply in a back channel and 6 feet of water. And these things happen, all right? And this really kind of shows it. So hopefully you guys are really practicing this stuff yourself with your kayak. Get used to it. It will happen. It happens to all of us. Don't feel embarrassed. Don't feel ashamed. It's just kind of what comes with the territory, all right? And with that being said, I'm going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.